The Meridian Crossing hung in space like a massive jewel, its lights twinkling against the dark void. Inside the enormous station, thousands of different alien species moved through the corridors, going about their business. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some had wings, others had tentacles. The station was a place where everyone came together to trade, talk, and eat. Hyun stood at the entrance of the Gravity Well restaurant, adjusting his collar nervously. He was 28 years old and had never imagined he would be this far from Earth. Just 2 years ago, humanity had discovered how to travel faster than light. Now, he was here, representing his entire species at a trade meeting. His black hair was neat, his uniform crisp, but his hands were slightly sweaty. "Stop fidgeting," Yuna said beside him, smiling. She was his colleague, a cultural liaison officer, who seemed completely calm. Her confidence made Hyun feel a bit better. "We're just having dinner." "It's not that scary." "Easy for you to say," Hyun replied. The restaurant's entrance was beautiful. Strange plants from different worlds grew in floating pots. The walls seemed to shimmer, with colors that Hyun had no names for. Soft music played, though it sounded nothing like Earth music. It was more like wind chimes, mixed with deep drums. A figure approached them from inside. She was tall and elegant, with 4 arms and delicate wings that looked like they were made of glass. Her skin had a pale blue shimmer, and her eyes were large and golden. She moved gracefully, her wings catching the light. "Welcome to the Gravity Well," she said in perfectly translated words. The translation device in Hyun's ear made it sound like she was speaking Korean. "My name is Velara. I will be serving you today." Hyun noticed how carefully she looked at them. Her golden eyes studied their faces, their bodies, their movements. He was used to this by now. Most aliens looked at humans like they were made of paper. To be fair, compared to many species in the galaxy, humans did look fragile. "Thank you," Yuna said warmly. "We're meeting some trade partners here. We reserved a table in the high-gravity section." Velara's wings fluttered. It was a tiny movement, barely noticeable, but Hyun caught it. "The high-gravity section?" she repeated. "I'm sorry, but perhaps there was a mistake with your reservation?" "No mistake," Hyun said. "We specifically requested it. Our partners are from a heavy world species. They're more comfortable there." Velara's 4 hands moved in what seemed like a gesture of concern. "I understand. But the high-gravity section operates at 2.8 times standard gravity. That's the same as the Stonehide homeworld. Most species require environmental suits to enter. Even my people cannot go there without mechanical help." Yuna pulled out her datapad and showed the reservation. "We're aware of the conditions. We've signed all the necessary waivers." The waitress looked confused now. She glanced between the 2 humans, her wings fluttering more rapidly. "Forgive me, but I must be certain you understand. 2.8 gravity. Your species is new to the galactic community. Perhaps your translation devices aren't working properly? The heavy section would be dangerous for delicate species." Hyun tried not to smile. He'd heard this before. Humans looked soft. No natural armor, no claws, no venomous bite. Their skin was thin, their bones looked fragile, and they didn't have any obvious weapons. Every alien they met seemed to think humans were 1 step away from breaking. "We understand perfectly," Hyun said gently. "Earth actually has pretty heavy gravity compared to most worlds. 1G is our standard. We'll be fine at 2.8. Velara's wings went completely still. 1G is your standard? She seemed to be calculating something in her head. But that's considered a high-gravity world. Most civilized species evolved on 0.6 to 0.8 G worlds. Not us, Yuna said cheerfully. "Shall we go to our table?" The waitress hesitated for a long moment. Then she said, "Please, wait here. I need to speak with my manager." She walked away quickly, her wings catching the air even in the station's artificial gravity. Hyun watched her go, and then turned to Yuna. She thinks we're going to die in there. Probably, Yuna agreed. Should be fun. A few minutes later, Velara returned with another member of her species. He was older, with darker blue skin and wings that had intricate patterns. His forearms were crossed in what looked like concern. "I am Crix, the manager here," he said. "I must strongly advise against this. We've had species attempt to enter high-gravity sections before. The medical incidents were severe. Your species is very new to space travel. Perhaps you don't yet understand the dangers? We appreciate your concern," Yuna said. "But we've been trained for this. All human space travelers go through high-gravity conditioning. We'll be perfectly safe." Crix's wings fluttered in the same worried way Velara's had. "I will need you to sign additional liability waivers, and I'm afraid I must insist that Velara accompanies you in case of emergency. She will wear a servo-assist exoskeleton." "Of course," Hyun said. "Whatever makes you comfortable." They signed the digital waivers on a datapad. Hyun noticed that Velara was watching them closely, like she was trying to understand something impossible. Other staff members had gathered now, watching from a distance. Word seemed to have spread that the new humans were doing something strange. Velara disappeared for a moment and returned wearing a mechanical frame around her body. It looked like a skeleton made of metal, with powered joints at her hips, knees, and all four shoulders. The machine hummed softly. "This way," she said, her voice tight with worry. They walked through the restaurant. Hyun saw dozens of different species eating and drinking. Some noticed them and pointed. The whispers followed them through the room. He heard the word humans, repeated in several languages. They reached a large door with warning symbols. Velara pressed her hand against a panel, and the door opened. Beyond it was a corridor that led down. Red lights lined the walls. "Last chance to reconsider," Crix said from behind them. "We're good," Hyun replied. Velara stepped through first, and immediately her exoskeleton's motors grew louder. She was leaning forward, fighting against gravity that Hyun couldn't feel yet. Step by step, she made her way down the corridor, each movement looking difficult. Then Hyun crossed the threshold, and he felt the change. It was like someone had put a heavy backpack on his shoulders and weighted bracelets on his arms and legs. His body felt heavier, his steps required more effort. But it wasn't painful. It wasn't even that bad. It just was. Beside him, Yuna took a deep breath and rolled her shoulders. "Not as bad as the training center," she said. They walked down the corridor normally. Not quickly, but not struggling either. Just walking like it was a normal day, with slightly more effort than usual. Behind them, still in the standard gravity section, Crix stood frozen in the doorway. Ahead of them, Velara had turned around. Her golden eyes were wide with shock. Her wings trembled even inside the mechanical frame. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Hyun and Yuna reached her and stopped, waiting patiently. "You're," Velara finally whispered. "You're just walking. Like it's nothing." "It's not nothing," Hyun said honestly. "It's definitely harder." The alien waitress stared at them for a long moment. Then she turned and continued down the corridor, her exoskeleton whining with effort while the two humans followed behind her, walking on a world that should have crushed them. The high-gravity dining room was different from the rest of the restaurant. Everything here was built lower and heavier. The chairs were thick and solid, bolted to the floor. The tables were made of dense metal rather than the elegant floating materials used elsewhere. Even the walls looked reinforced, like they were holding back enormous pressure. Velara led them to a table near the center of the room. Her exoskeleton's motors hummed and whirred with every step. Each movement looked like it took concentration. Her delicate wings were pressed flat against her back, unable to move properly under the increased weight. "Here is your table," she said, her voice strained. She gestured with one of her four hands toward the chairs. "Please, sit carefully. The gravity will make any fall much more dangerous." Hyun pulled out his chair and sat down. It felt like sitting down while wearing a heavy coat. but nothing worse than that. Yuna sat across from him and stretched her arms above her head, working out the tension in her shoulders. Velara watched them with those wide golden eyes. She hadn't blinked in almost a minute. Her wings kept trying to flutter but couldn't move properly under the mechanical frame and heavy gravity. "Are you both?" she started, then stopped. "Are you truly comfortable?" "Comfortable enough," Hyun said. "This is about the same as wearing a weighted training vest back home. We use those in the gym sometimes." You do this for training?" Velara's voice went higher. "Voluntarily?" "Sure," Yuna said, picking up the menu from the table. The menu was a solid piece of metal with engravings that glowed. "Athletes on Earth train in higher gravity all the time. Helps build strength and endurance. Some of our space stations keep high-gravity gyms specifically for exercise." Velara looked like she wanted to say something, but just then a sound came from the entrance. Another figure was entering the high-gravity section. He was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with thick, rocky skin that looked like stone plates. He walked on 4 legs, each one as thick as a tree trunk. This was a stonehide, one of the few species that naturally lived in heavy gravity. The stonehide saw them and stopped. His small eyes focused on the 2 humans, sitting casually at their table. Then, he looked at Velara in her struggling exoskeleton. He made a deep rumbling sound that might have been laughter. "The soft ones are eating here?" he said in a voice like grinding rocks. "Interesting." He moved to a table on the far side of the room, each step making a heavy thud against the floor. Once seated, he kept glancing at them. Clearly curious. Velara turned back to Hyun and Yuna, her hands fidgeting nervously. "May I ask you something?" she said quietly. "It might be rude, but I must know. How is this possible? Your species has no armor, no exoskeleton, no enhanced muscle structure that I can see. You look so." She paused, searching for the right word. "Fragile?" Hyun offered with a slight smile. "I was going to say delicate," Velara said quickly. "But yes, you appear to be a species that evolved in gentle conditions. Soft skin, minimal natural protection, relatively small size. Yet you walk in gravity that requires me to wear this machine just to move." Yuna leaned forward, resting her elbows on the heavy table. "Earth isn't a gentle world," she said. 1G doesn't sound like much, but we evolved under constant pressure. Our bones are incredibly dense. Our muscles are built to work hard all the time. Our hearts and lungs are designed to pump against gravity every second of every day. But you seem so." Velara gestured helplessly with all 4 hands. "So vulnerable. So vulnerable." "We're good at looking harmless," Hyun said. "It's actually an advantage sometimes. Nobody expects much from us." A soft chime sounded from somewhere in Velara's exoskeleton. She looked down at a small screen on one of the mechanical arms. "Your trade partners have sent a message. They're running late. They apologize and ask if you can wait another 30 minutes. "No problem," Yuna said. "We'll just order some appetizers while we wait." Velara pulled out a digital ordering pad, holding it carefully with 2 hands while her exoskeleton compensated for the wait. "What would you like?" They ordered some of the lighter dishes. Things that were safe for human biology. As Velara entered the orders, she kept stealing glances at them. Finally, she said, "May I ask more questions? I've never met humans before. We've heard that your species only achieved faster-than-light travel 2 years ago." "That's right," Hyun confirmed. "We're pretty new to all this." "What would you like to know?" "Everything," Velara said immediately, then looked embarrassed. "I mean, if you don't mind. It's just that you're so different from what I expected." The other staff members are watching from the standard gravity section. They think I'm going to have to call medical services any moment. "We're not that fragile," Yuna laughed. "Go ahead. Ask away." Velara shifted her weight, and the exoskeleton adjusted with a whir. "What is Earth like? Your home world?" Hyun thought about how to explain. "It's beautiful but dangerous. We have extreme temperature variations. In some places, it gets hot enough to kill you in hours. In other places, it's cold enough to kill you in minutes. We have storms that can destroy entire buildings, earthquakes that crack the ground open, volcanoes that explode with more force than bombs. Velara's wings tried to spread in alarm but couldn't. That sounds horrifying. And your people live there? We thrive there, Yuna said. Humans are really good at adapting. We live in deserts, in frozen wastelands, on mountains, in jungles. We can survive almost anywhere if we need to. But surely most species can adapt to different environments, Velara said. Not like humans, Hyun replied. Most species need special equipment to handle different conditions. We just handle it. We can survive for days without food, over a week without water. We can run for hours without stopping. We can heal from injuries that would be fatal to other species. Velara was quiet for a moment. I think I'm beginning to understand. You said 1G is normal for you. My homeworld has 0.6G. Most civilized worlds are similar. You evolved under nearly twice the gravity we did. Exactly, Yuna said. So this? She gestured around the high-gravity dining room. This is heavy for us. But it's not impossible. It's just uncomfortable. The door to the section opened again, and another figure entered. This one was human. A tall man with broad shoulders and an easy smile. He wore a security uniform. Hey Hyun, Yuna, he called out, walking toward them normally. Heard you were eating in the heavy section. Thought I'd stop by and say hi. Do Hyun. Yuna waved. Done with your shift? Done with your shift? Just finished a workout, actually, Do Hyun said, pulling up a chair to their table and sitting down like the gravity was nothing. They've got a great gym here. I was training at 3.2G. Really gets the blood pumping. Velara made a sound like a gasp. Her exoskeleton beeped an alert, and she had to grab the edge of their table to steady herself. 3.2? She whispered. That would be fatal to my people. Even this machine couldn't protect me at that level. Do Hyun looked at her with surprise. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to shock you. Yeah, 3.2 is pretty intense. I can only do about 45 minutes before I need a break. Some of the military folks can go longer. The stonehide across the room was staring now, his rocky face showing what might have been respect or surprise. Velara looked between the three humans. They were just sitting there, chatting and laughing in gravity that required her to wear a powered machine just to stand. One of them had just casually mentioned training in even heavier gravity, like it was a normal gym session. Her hands trembled slightly, making the exoskeleton's joints click. I need to put in your order, she said quietly. I'll be right back. She turned and walked toward the exit, each step a struggle. Behind her, she could hear the three humans talking and laughing together, completely at ease in a place that should have been crushing them. For the first time since meeting humans, Velara began to wonder if perhaps the galactic community had badly misjudged these newcomers. Velara returned with their appetizers on a reinforced serving cart. The cart had small anti-gravity generators to help with the weight. But even with technological assistance, pushing it through the high-gravity section made her exoskeleton's motors strain loudly. She placed the dishes on the table with careful, deliberate movements. The food looked strange to human eyes. Crystalline vegetables from a water world, protein cubes that glowed faintly, and some kind of grain that shifted colors under the light. But the smell was pleasant. And Hyun had learned to trust the food safety databases that cleared dishes for human consumption. Thank you, Yuna said, as Velara set down the last plate. The waitress hesitated, still standing by their table. Her golden eyes kept darting between the three humans, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Finally, she said, May I ask another question? Of course, Hyun said, picking up his utensils. They were heavy, solid metal, designed for high-gravity use. You said Earth is a dangerous world, Velara began slowly. You mentioned storms, and temperature extremes, and disasters. But those are environmental challenges. Many worlds have difficult environments. What I don't understand is how your bodies became so strong. Evolution doesn't work that way. You don't develop heavy bones and powerful muscles just because your planet has storms. Do-hyun leaned back in his chair, which creaked under the combined weight of his body and the extra gravity. That's a good question. The answer is complicated, but basically, Earth didn't just have a dangerous environment. It had dangerous life. What do you mean? Velara's wings twitched inside their mechanical housing. Predators, Hyun said. Lots of them. For millions of years, our ancestors were prey animals. We were hunted constantly by creatures with bigger teeth, sharper claws, and stronger bodies. We couldn't win fights with pure strength. So we had to get creative. We learned to run, Yuna added. Human beings are endurance runners. We can run slower than most predators. But we can run for longer. Much longer. We would chase prey animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. It took hours, sometimes days. But we never stopped. Velara's four hands clutched at each other nervously. You, hunted by exhausting your prey? That's terrifying. It's efficient, Do-hyun said with a shrug. And it meant we needed bodies that could handle extreme endurance, strong hearts, efficient lungs, muscles that could work for hours without failing, dense bones to handle the constant impact of running, the ability to cool ourselves through sweating so we wouldn't overheat. Other species don't sweat? Yuna asked, curious. Not like humans, Velara replied. Most species pant or seek shade or have other methods. But constant liquid cooling through the skin? That's unusual. Also incredibly effective. I've read. The Stonehide from across the room had been listening. Now he stood and walked over to their table, each footstep making the floor vibrate slightly. Up close, he was even more massive. His rocky skin had patterns that might have been scars or natural formations. I am Thexaron, he rumbled. I have been listening to your conversation. I hope you don't mind. Not at all, Hyun said. Would you like to join us? The large alien pulled over a reinforced chair and sat down heavily. I am curious about humans. Your species is the subject of much discussion in the galactic community. Most species think you are weak. But I have observed you here, and I am beginning to think otherwise. We get that a lot, Yuna said with a slight smile. Thexaron's small eyes studied them carefully. My people evolved on a world with 2.8 G. The same gravity as this room. It made us strong, but slow. We cannot move quickly because every movement costs tremendous energy. Yet you three sit here as if this is merely uncomfortable rather than impossible. It's definitely not comfortable, Do-hyun admitted. But impossible? No. We train for this kind of thing. Train, Velara repeated. You keep saying that word. You mentioned training at 3.2 G. Training with weighted vests. Training for space adaptation. Do humans spend much time training their bodies? Some do, Hyun said. But honestly, most humans do it for fun. Velara's wings went still. For fun? Sure, Yuna said. We have these things called sports. Games where people compete physically. Some sports involve running long distances. Some involve lifting heavy objects. Some involve fighting each other in controlled conditions. Millions of humans do these things recreationally. Oh where? 17 Popik, Klamen. Oh where? Fighting each other? Thexaron leaned forward. As in combat? Well, yes, but with rules and safety equipment, Do-hyun explained. Martial arts? Boxing? Wrestling? People train for years to get good at them. It's entertainment and exercise combined. Velara slowly lowered herself into a nearby chair, her exoskeleton whirring as it adjusted. Let me understand this correctly, Humans voluntarily put themselves through painful physical challenges for entertainment? Pretty much, Hyun confirmed. We climb mountains just because they're there. We run marathons, which are races over 42 kilometers long. Some people do even longer races, over 100 kilometers. We swim across channels. We dive to extreme depths. We jump out of aircraft with parachutes just for the thrill of it. This is madness, Velara whispered. This is humanity, Do-hyun said with a laugh. We're a little bit crazy, but that's part of our charm. Thexaron made a rumbling sound that might have been laughter. I begin to see why your species survived such a dangerous world. You are not just adapted to hardship. You seek it out. In a day, and a day, and a day later. I wouldn't say we seek it out exactly, Yuna said thoughtfully. It's more like we're not satisfied with easy. Humans get bored quickly. We need challenges. If life isn't hard enough, we make it harder on purpose. Velara's hands were trembling again. The galactic community has made a terrible mistake. We thought humans were fragile newcomers who needed protection and guidance. But you're not fragile at all, are you? We're fragile compared to some species, Hyun said honestly. A stone hide could crush any of us easily. Many species have natural weapons we don't have, but we're tougher than we look, and we're very good at not giving up. There's another thing, Do-hyun said. Humans are really good at working together. We're social creatures. We protect each other. We share knowledge. We build things as teams. A single human might seem weak, but humans in groups are incredibly effective. Just then, the door to the high-gravity section opened again. A small figure entered. Moving carefully but steadily, she was human, wearing a doctor's uniform with a medical bag slung over her shoulder. Hello everyone, she said cheerfully. I'm Nari, the medical officer for the human delegation. I heard we had people dining in the heavy section and thought I'd check in to make sure everyone was doing all right. She walked over to their table without any visible struggle, pulled up another chair, and sat down. Mind if I join you for a few minutes? I just got off my shift, and I'm starving. Velara stared at her. You're a doctor? You're a doctor? That's right, Nari said, pulling out a small device and scanning each of the humans quickly. Everyone's vitals look good. Heart rates slightly elevated, but nothing concerning. How long have you been in here? About 30 minutes, Hyun said. Perfect. You can safely stay for another hour or so before you should take a break, Nari said. She looked at Velara and Thexaron. Sorry, I should introduce myself properly. I'm Dr. Nari. I specialize in cross-species medicine. Are either of you feeling unwell? I'm fine, Thexaron said. This is my natural environment. Velara paused. I'm in shock, I think. But not medically. Emotionally. Nari's expression softened. Ah. First time meeting humans in an extreme environment? Yes. Velara admitted. I thought I would be calling for medical help for you. Instead, you walk around like the gravity is barely there, and now a human doctor has entered to check on you without even breathing hard. The breathing is actually enhanced, Nari said. Higher gravity makes the lungs work harder, which means we're processing more oxygen. Some athletes actually prefer it because it improves their conditioning. Velara put her head in her hands. All 4 of them. The entire galaxy thinks humans are weak. We're all wrong, aren't we? The humans exchanged glances. Finally, Yuna said gently, You're not wrong that we're vulnerable in some ways. We just have different strengths than you expected. Every species is unique. But you're so much stronger than you appear, Velara said. Appearance can be deceiving, Hyun replied. We've learned not to judge others by how they look. Maybe the galaxy should learn the same lesson about us. Thexaron rumbled in agreement. The small soft ones are not so soft after all. The peaceful dinner was interrupted by a loud crash at the entrance to the high-gravity section. The heavy door had been thrown open with enough force to dent the reinforced wall beside it. Standing in the doorway was a creature that made even Thexeron look small. Inly, the newcomer stood nearly 4 meters tall on powerful backward-jointed legs. His body was covered in dark purple scales that looked like armor plates. 4 arms, ending in razor-sharp claws, hung at his sides. His head was reptilian, with a mouth full of teeth and eyes that glowed orange in the dim light. This was a member of the Talon clan, one of the most feared warrior species in the galaxy. "I am Korval," the creature announced in a voice like grinding metal. "I seek worthy opponents." The restaurant went silent. Even the background music seemed to stop. Velara's exoskeleton made nervous clicking sounds as her body tensed inside it. Korval's orange eyes scanned the room and locked onto Thexeron. "You, Stonehide, your people are known for strength. Fight me." Thexeron didn't even look up from his meal. "I'm eating. Go away." The Talon warrior's scales rattled in anger. "You refuse a challenge? Your honor will be stained." 4024. "Your honor will be stained." "I have no interest in your honor," Thexeron replied calmly. "I came here for dinner, not combat." "Find someone else to bother," Korval snarled, showing rows of teeth. His claws flexed, scraping against each other with a metallic sound. Then his glowing eyes found the humans at the table. He stared at them for a long moment, his head tilting to one side like a predator studying prey. "What are these?" he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Prey species? In the warriors section?" "We're humans," Yuna said coolly. "We're having dinner. Please, leave us alone." Korval laughed. It was a horrible sound, like rocks grinding together. "Humans. Yes, I've heard of you. The new species. Soft skin, no claws, no armor. You walk on 2 legs like children learning to balance." He took a step closer. "What are prey species doing in a place of gravity meant for warriors?" Do-Hyun stood up slowly. His hand moved to his belt, where his security badge was clipped. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down. You're disturbing other guests." "A prey species tells me to calm down?" Korval's scales rattled again. Amusing, another human entered the section at that moment. She was shorter than the others, with her hair tied back in a neat bun. She wore a diplomat's uniform and moved with careful confidence, despite the heavy gravity. "Excuse me," she said in a clear voice. "No problem," Korval said, but his voice was mocking. "I simply seek a test of strength. Your friend, the Stonehide, refuses. Perhaps one of you prey species would like to try instead?" Jisu's expression remained calm, but Hyun could see the tension in her shoulders. The Talon clan has a reputation for honor and strength. Surely challenging guests at a restaurant is beneath you. "Are you afraid?" Korval moved closer. "Of course you are. You're prey. It's in your nature to fear predators like me." Hyun saw Do-Hyun's jaw tighten. Yuna's hands had curled into fists under the table. Nari had quietly moved her medical bag closer. Even Thexeron had stopped eating and was watching carefully. "What kind of test did you have in mind?" Hyun heard himself say. The words were out before he could stop them. "Yun." "No," Jisoo said quickly, but Korval's eyes lit up with interest. "A prey species with courage? Rare. Very rare." He gestured with one of his clawed hands. "A simple test. We both stand in increasing gravity until one of us falls. Standard Talon Clan challenge. Are you brave enough, little human?" "This is a bad idea," Velara whispered urgently. "His species evolved on a 2.5G world. They're natural warriors. You'll be hurt." Hyun looked at his colleagues. Do-Hyun gave him a tiny nod. Yuna's expression said she trusted his judgment. Nari had her medical scanner ready. Just in case. Jisoo looked worried but didn't object again. "All right," Hyun said. "I accept your challenge. Korval's mouth split into a terrifying grin. Excellent. The station has a gravity chamber for such tests. We go there now. Word spread through the restaurant faster than light. Within minutes, dozens of beings from different species had gathered outside the gravity chamber. The crowd included restaurant staff, station workers, and curious travelers. Everyone wanted to see what would happen when a Talon warrior challenged a human. The gravity chamber was a large, circular room with transparent walls so observers could watch. Inside, the floor was padded in case someone fell. Control panels lined the exterior, monitoring the conditions inside. Hyun stepped into the chamber, feeling the shift as the door sealed behind him. Currently, the room was at standard station gravity, about 0.8 g. It felt light, almost like floating. Korval entered from the opposite side, his scales gleaming under the chamber's lights. The rules are simple, he announced loudly so everyone could hear. We start at 3G and increase by 0.2 every minute. First one to fall or surrender loses. Understood, Hyun said. Outside the chamber, Velara stood with her exoskeleton turned off, since she was back in normal gravity. Her wings spread wide with anxiety. This is terrible, she said to Nari, who stood beside her with medical equipment ready. Your friend will be hurt. Korval is a renowned warrior. He's competed in these challenges across 20 systems. Hyun knows what he's doing, Nari said, but her voice was tight with concern. The chamber's control panel lit up. A mechanical voice announced, Gravity increasing to 3.0. Beginning. Test. Hyun felt the weight slam down on him. It was heavier than the restaurant. Heavier than any training he'd done recently. His legs bent slightly to compensate, and his breathing deepened. Across from him, Korval stood perfectly straight, not showing any strain at all. Already struggling, the warrior mocked. We've only just begun. 1 minute passed. The mechanical voice spoke again. Gravity increasing to 3.2. More weight. Hyun's shoulders felt like they had steel bars across them. He widened his stance slightly, distributing the load. His heart was pounding hard, pumping blood against the increased pressure. He could feel sweat starting to form on his forehead. Korval still looked comfortable, though his breathing had deepened slightly. Another minute. Gravity increasing to 3.4. The crowd outside was silent. Velara's 4 hands covered her mouth. Jisoo stood rigid with worry. Do-hyun and Yuna pressed close to the transparent wall, watching every movement. Hyun's muscles burned. Each breath was work. His bones felt the pressure, but they held. Millions of years of evolution had built those bones to handle constant gravity. They were dense and strong, designed for exactly this kind of punishment. Gravity increasing to 3.6. Now Korval was showing strain. His orange eyes were narrowed, and his scales had pressed flat against his body. His claws dug into his palms. Hyun's vision was starting to tunnel. His body screamed at him to lie down, to give up, to stop this madness. But somewhere deep in his genetics, millions of ancestors whispered. They had endured worse. They had kept running when every muscle said to stop. They had survived impossible conditions because giving up meant death. He stayed standing, gravity increasing to 3.8. Korval's legs were shaking now. His breathing came in harsh gasps. Gravity increasing to 4.0. One of Korval's legs buckled. He caught himself, but just barely. Gravity increasing to 4.2. Korval's eyes went wide. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Then, like a falling tree, he toppled forward and crashed to the padded floor. Hyun stood alone, swaying but upright. His whole body shook with effort. Blood pounded in his ears. But he was standing. Outside the chamber, the crowd erupted in chaos. Aliens were shouting, pointing, unable to believe what they'd just witnessed. Velara stood frozen, her golden eyes wider than ever before. Her wings spread to their full span. He's still standing, she whispered. The human is still standing. The gravity chamber's controls flashed red. Emergency protocols activated automatically when one participant fell. The mechanical voice announced, "Test concluded. Gravity returning to standard." But the system was designed for gradual transitions to prevent injury. The gravity would decrease slowly over 30 seconds. For those 30 seconds, Hyun had to stay standing in 4.2 G while medical teams prepared to enter. His legs trembled. His back felt like it might break. Every breath was a battle against weight that wanted to crush his chest flat. His vision went gray at the edges, and his heartbeat thundered so loud it drowned out all other sounds. But he stood. Outside the chamber, Nari was already moving toward the entrance, medical equipment in hand. Do-hyun and Yuna stood ready to assist. Jisoo was speaking rapidly into a communication device, likely filing reports about the incident. Velara moved without thinking. She had to get inside. She had to help. Her exoskeleton was in the restaurant, but she didn't need it in standard gravity. She rushed toward the chamber entrance. Her wings spread for balance. The problem was that the gravity hadn't returned to standard yet. It was still decreasing gradually. When Velara reached the entrance, the chamber was at 2.8 G, the same as the restaurant's heavy section. The same weight that required her to wear a mechanical frame just to stand. The door opened automatically for emergency personnel. Velara, moving too fast, her mind focused only on helping the fallen warrior and the standing human, crossed the threshold without thinking. 2.8 G hit her like a collapsing building. Her legs buckled instantly. Her wings, spread wide, became crushing weights, trying to tear themselves from her back. She fell forward, unable to catch herself, heading straight for the hard floor of the chamber. Then strong hands caught her. Hyun had seen her coming. Despite the crushing gravity, despite the exhaustion burning through every muscle, despite barely being able to stand himself, he moved. He caught Velara before she hit the ground, his arms wrapping around her delicate frame. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Velara felt the human's arms around her, solid and steady despite the impossible conditions. She could feel his heart pounding against her back, beating like a war drum. His breathing was harsh in her ear. Each breath, a victory against gravity that should have killed them both. He was holding her up, in 4.2 times standard gravity. After winning a challenge against a renowned Talon warrior, this soft-looking human with no armor, no claws, no visible weapons, was holding her safely in conditions that would crush her in seconds. She couldn't believe it. "Got you," Hyun said, his voice strained but clear. "Hold on." He turned, moving carefully, and carried her toward the exit. Each step was agony. His legs threatened to give out. His arms screamed in protest. But he kept moving, step by step, carrying the alien waitress who weighed almost nothing in normal gravity, but felt like lead weights in this crushing environment. The gravity decreased as he walked. 3.8. 3.4. Each reduction made movement slightly easier, but he was at his limit. His body had given everything it had and was running on pure willpower now. 3G. 2.6. 2.2. He reached the doorway and crossed the threshold into normal station gravity. The sudden lightness made him stumble, but he didn't fall. He gently set Velara down on her own feet, making sure she was stable before he let go. Then his legs finally gave out. He dropped to his knees, gasping for air. His whole body shook violently. Nari was there instantly, scanner in hand. "Hyun, talk to me. Are you hurt? Just tired," he managed to say between breaths. So tired. Behind him, other medical personnel rushed into the chamber to help Korval. The Talon warrior was conscious but dazed, his scales pale from the strain. He would recover, but his pride would take longer to heal than his body. Velara stood frozen where Hyun had set her down. Her wings trembled uncontrollably. All four of her hands were shaking. Her golden eyes were fixed on the human kneeling on the floor, his chest heaving as he tried to recover. He had caught her. In conditions that would have killed her. After enduring a challenge that would have broken most species. He had used the last of his strength to save her from a fall that was entirely her own fault. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you catch me? You could have let me fall. You were barely standing yourself." Hyun looked up at her, still breathing hard. "That's not how humans work," he said. "We help. It's what we do." Do-hyun appeared and helped Hyun to his feet. "Come on, buddy. Let's get you to a chair before you collapse completely." They moved to the side of the gathering crowd. Someone brought chairs and water. Hyun sat down heavily, accepting a water bottle with grateful hands. His fingers were still shaking too much to open it properly. So Yuna helped him. The crowd was still in chaos. Aliens were talking rapidly in dozens of languages. Many were looking at their communication devices, clearly sharing news of what had just happened. A human had defeated a Talon warrior in a gravity challenge. A human had then rescued someone while still under crushing conditions. Velara slowly approached where Hyun sat. Her legs still felt weak, and her wings kept trying to fold and unfold nervously. She stopped in front of him, all four hands clasped together. "I nearly lost my balance," she said softly. "I fell into dangerous conditions because I wasn't thinking clearly. You saved me. You saved me when you could barely save yourself." "You would have done the same," Hyun said. "Anyone would." "No," Velara said firmly. "Not anyone. Not in those conditions. Most species would have let me fall. Survival instinct would have prevented them from risking themselves. But you didn't hesitate." She looked around at the other humans gathered nearby. Nari checking her medical equipment. Do-hyun standing protectively near his friend. Yuna holding the water bottle. Ready. Jisoo finishing her reports while keeping a concerned eye on everyone. "I've been wrong about humans," Velara said. "We've all been wrong. The entire galactic community looked at your species and saw weakness. We saw soft skin and small size, and assumed you were fragile. Prey species. Newcomers who needed protection." She spread all four of her arms wide in a gesture of revelation. "But you're not fragile. You're not weak. You evolved on a world that tried to kill you every day, and you survived. You became strong in ways we never imagined. Strong bodies, yes, but also strong spirits. You help each other. You protect strangers. You never give up." Thex Aaron, the Stonehide, walked over slowly. His rocky face was thoughtful. "The little waitress speaks truth. I have lived for 300 years. I have met thousands of species. But today, I learned something new. Never judge strength by appearance." More aliens were gathering now, wanting to see the humans up close. Some looked frightened. Others looked curious. A few looked respectful. Korval emerged from the gravity chamber, supported by medical personnel. His scales were still pale, and he moved slowly. He stopped when he saw Hyun sitting there, recovering from the ordeal. The Talon warrior stood silent for a long moment. Then he performed a complex gesture with his four arms that Hyun didn't recognize. Jisoo whispered, "That's a Talon salute. It means he acknowledges you as a worthy opponent." "You are stronger than you appear, human," Korval said, his voice tired but respectful. "I challenged you, expecting easy victory. Instead, I learned humility. My people will hear of this day." He turned and walked away slowly. His pride wounded, but his honor intact. The crowd gradually dispersed, though many aliens kept glancing back at the humans. Velara could hear them talking. The word human was repeated over and over in a dozen languages. News was spreading through the station at light speed. Within hours, it would spread to nearby systems. Within days, the whole galaxy would know. Humanity was not what it seemed. Velara knelt down in front of Hyun, bringing herself to his eye level. "Thank you," she said simply, for saving me, for teaching me, for showing me that I had so much to learn. You're welcome, Hyun said with a tired smile. Does this mean we can get our dinner now? I'm starving. Ren. We. Velara laughed. It was a musical sound, and her wings finally relaxed. Yes, dinner. But perhaps we should eat in the normal gravity section this time? Probably a good idea, Yuna agreed. They made their way back to the Gravity Well restaurant. Crix, the manager, met them at the entrance. His wings spread wide in welcome. Your meals will be complimentary, he said. And I have taken the liberty of reserving our best table for you, in the standard section, where you can eat in comfort. Thank you, Jisoo said diplomatically. As they sat down at their new table, Velara realized that everything had changed. This morning, she had been serving newcomers who seemed out of place. Now she was serving survivors from a death world who had proven themselves in front of dozens of witnesses. Word would spread, the galaxy would learn. Humans were not prey species. They were not fragile. They were endurance hunters from a heavy gravity world, built to survive conditions that would kill most civilized species. Velara brought them their meals personally, moving through the familiar standard gravity with ease. As she served them, she kept thinking about that moment in the chamber. The moment when strong hands caught her, when a human used the last of his strength to save a stranger. She had nearly lost her balance that day. Not just physically, but mentally. Her entire understanding of humans had toppled and crashed. And in that fall, she had discovered the truth. Humans were terrifying. Not because they were monsters, but because they were kind. They had the strength of Deathworld survivors and the hearts of protectors. They would walk through crushing gravity to help a friend. They would catch a falling stranger, even when they could barely stand themselves. The galaxy had no idea what had just joined the galactic community, but Velara knew. She had felt it in those strong, gentle hands. She had seen it in tired eyes that still showed concern for others. Humanity had arrived. And nothing would ever be the same again. As she watched the humans laugh and talk over their meal, eating and joking like they hadn't just done something impossible, Velara made a decision. Tomorrow she would speak to Crix about starting a human cultural education program for the staff. Someone needed to teach the galaxy what humans really were, and she would start with the simple truth she had learned today. Never judge strength by appearance. Never assume soft means weak. And never, ever underestimate a human who smiles and says something is not that bad. Because if a human says it's not that bad, it probably means they're enduring something that would kill you, and they're being polite about it.